Welcome to Becoming Parents Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Campbell. I'm a doula in Washoe County, Nevada, a Medicaid provider, a lactation educator, childbirth educator, and mom of 18. You can find me and connect on doulainreno.com. Remember, give a shout out to those who are brave enough to share their stories with us on how they have become parents. Let's dive in. Welcome to Becoming Parents Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Campbell, and today I'm here with Gloria Vanderhorst. How are you today?
I am fabulous today because it's a cooler day in Washington, D.C. We have had 100-degree weather.
Well, I'm in Reno, Nevada, and we regularly have 100-degree weather, but it did cool down a little bit. It is not 106. So,
All right, not my cup of tea. I prefer the 80s.
oh, I definitely prefer the 80s. I want you to jump in and share your parenting journey with us.
Happy to do that. I want to talk about two phases,
Mm.
right? One is my own birth experience. And the other is an experience with my mother after I had my daughter, because I think both of them are very important for anyone that is watching. The first one, the critical element of my own birth experience, is to understand that every experience that we have after we come into the world is recorded in your brain and it has an impact on your current behavior. So I'm going to prove that to you
Okay.
by telling my birth story, right? So I was born in 1946, uh, the beginning of the golden era. But at that time, pregnancy and delivery was a laborious task. Right? Women went into labor, they stayed in labor as long as it took, right?
Yeah.
And they gave birth to kids. So my mother was in labor for 2 days. Just sounds like a nightmare to me in this modern age. She was in labor for 2 days. And so when she finally had me, she did not get to see me. All right. She
Mm.
was exhausted. They whisked me away. So she had no idea who I was or what I looked like or anything else. And at that point in time, there were no private rooms. All right. There is a huge room with beds. Each one has a mother in it. There are curtains in between those. All right. They're on a maternity ward. And
Okay.
in the morning, the nurses bring the babies out to all of the mothers. So
Okay.
my mother's first experience of seeing me was to be handed me by a nurse. And of course, you're a baby, you're all wrapped up. My mother unwrapped me and started screaming. She's screaming for the nurse. She's screaming for the doctor because she discovers that I have an open spine in the back. Terrifying. Now, my mother is a nurse, so she knows exactly what that is, but she is livid that no one has told
Yeah.
her this for delivering the baby, right? So that's very reasonable. Her behavior is legitimate. She told me that story maybe a couple of years before she died.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
Um, and long after my father had died. And I always then, from that point, experienced that story from her perspective. You know, how horrible that was, how frightening that was for her. Until in the last couple years, I decided, well, let me look at that experience from my perspective.
Mm.
I had an experience too. And my experience is that this person that I'm supposed to attach to starts screaming and yelling at the very sight of me,
Right.
right? And I know for sure that my sense then, as I grew up and interacted with other people, that my sense of initial contact with another person was always to hold back, was
Wow.
always to be a little bit afraid of what was this interaction going to be like. And it is rooted in that birth experience. So if you ever doubt that your early life experiences don't have a role to play in your current existence, then change your mind. All of your experiences get mixed in to the current person that you are. And it's valuable to be curious about those and to go sort them out. Because as I took my perspective rather than my mother's perspective, I was able to completely let go of that discomfort about meeting someone or engaging someone, right? I no longer had to be cautious or afraid that they were going to reject me. So it's powerful to go take a look at your early history and the nature that gets developed because of your early experiences. You can change, right? You're not limited by those early experiences.
I know they're doing studies now, starting to, on in utero,
Right.
where women, I mean, we have substance use disorder,
Hmm.
high stress, domestic
Right.
violence. So
Hmm.
situations where babies might be all protected inside in the womb, but how much I know that this is something that's challenging to quantify, but fascinating how from the moment of conception, essentially, all
Right.
the way through, like all of that is impacting who this little person is. And I've adopted kids from foster care, all different situations, and it's fascinating now that they're all adults to see
Hmm.
what things bother them or they struggle
Uh-huh.
with based on knowing their birth parents and their birth stories.
Right. Yeah, it's very important, I think, for adoptees to go
Mhm.
find their birth story and really understand their history for this very reason, right? Because you're shaped by it, you're limited by it. And when you can uncover it and understand it, it no longer has to have power over you.
Yeah.
I will tell you one other story about my
Yeah.
mother. And that is after I had my own daughter, and I have just one girl, a mature adult at this point. But my mother was visiting, and my daughter wasn't a complete infant. She might have been 6 or 8 months old, sitting up, right, in a high chair. And I'm feeding her, and my mother is trying to give me advice and direction by talking through my daughter. Tell mommy to,
Oh,
right?
no.
Let mommy know that you would, right? Yeah, it's driving you crazy, right? Even just to think about it, it's driving you crazy. And so she had done this before. And so I, as a psychologist, thinking of myself as very mature, decided I would prepare something to say to her, all right, kindly, gently, but that would request a change. And so I did that. I said, Mother, I value your advice. I would like you to say it to me rather than speaking through my daughter. My mother, right, a stoic farm girl, head nurse, right, immediately collapsed into tears. Never seen this woman cry before, right? Collapsed into tears, ran upstairs, got in bed, and pulled the covers over her head as though she might be 2 or 3 years old. Shocking, right? So at first, I thought I'd killed her, right? I didn't know what to do.
That's terrible.
But, I went upstairs, right? And I sat on the bed and pulled the covers down. And I said the same thing again. I really value your advice, your expertise, but I want you to say it to me. And the truth of the matter is, no one in her life growing up had ever valued her
Oh,
and told that they valued her, right? And so to hear a message that she was personally valued just deep sixed her,
so
right?
was that
So
not the opposite, which I assumed, right? I thought,
no, it is. It's the early childhood experience again, right? So this has been something that she's been longing for, right? To be valued in relationship in her family. She was never valued in relationship in her family. And here I give her this piece of value and it just crushes her, right? It just tears her apart. But it was the best gift that I could give, and she was open to receiving it, and it changed the dynamic between the two of us moving forward. So never be afraid to take the risk of being transparent with someone that you love. It's
also,
powerful.
I agree. And I also feel like it's so easy. I don't know if other countries or societies are different, but in the US, we're very focused on the negative, and negative is
Mhm.
super easy. I mean, it's in your face and it's bothersome, right? And
Right.
I've said, like, if I go through the drive-through for a coffee and that person completely messes up my coffee, it's really easy to say, you didn't get this right. And it's easy for people to get mad,
Right. Something
did you not
negative
hear
or
me?
even
Did you?
nasty. Right.
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 Are you not smart enough?
Mm,
Yeah, nasty. People get nasty. In the same line, when they get it right, 9 times out of 10, probably, do we take the time to
mhm.
say, hey, your voice on the other end made my day this morning. My
Yeah, right.
coffee's perfect,
The
and I
coffee
really
means a lot to
appreciate
me.
you.
Thank you.
Right.
Right.
I don't think we generally take time to even think about
That's
how many things go well and then comment on them. So you're
mhm.
right. I mean, you can make a
It's
huge
powerful.
impact in passing without ever even knowing you did in the life of
Right.
another human being by just taking a second to be kind.
Right.
That's amazing. So your relationship with your mom deepened, probably got better
As a result of that.
as
Right.
res-
Right. Yeah,
that's
complete.
incredible.
Hmm. Hmm.
How did that change moving on? And how did your parenting information from your own birth experience and parenting your daughter, it affected your life in bigger ways too?
Absolutely. Right. So first of all, the longing for a child that I had was incredibly powerful. And so I loved being a mother and interacting with other mothers, right? And just having fun with a little girl. And through that period, um, both my husband and we really didn't do other outside activities, right? We weren't gone in the evening. We were home playing with a little girl, and having fun and being silly. And as she grew up, we grew up, right? And grew out into the community as well. And I think that's part of what enabled me to be so excited in my practice in working with preschool children. because that's really the way that my independent practice started, was working with preschool boys. And preschool boys get referred to psychologists because they have more energy. They're more active, right? And the teachers in preschools and the directors of preschools, by and large, are female. And females have really do not have an understanding of the full energy of boys. Boys come into the world with a broader range of emotional expression than girls. They can get happier and they can get sadder. Mothers are not used to that. They're not comfortable with that. And so they tend to withdraw, back up a little bit when the boy gets super excited or super disappointed. Mother doesn't know what to do. And so, without intending it, mother trains our boys to narrow their range of emotional expression. And then the culture put them in preschool. The women in daycare and preschool are not comfortable with that range of activity and expression. And so they narrow it even further. And then life, back to the caveman, has taught us that we want men not to have access to the lower range of feeling states. We don't want them sad. We don't want them worried. We don't want them scared. We want them brave, right? Because if you're a caveman, you have to run out with a spear and kill food. We want them active and aggressive. We use them to engage in wars. So we really don't want them to be sensitive. We want them to have courage and run into battle. I think that's changing in this day and age. Yes, we still send men and women on the ground to engage in conflict, but the majority of the conflict that we engage in really happens by pushing a button, right? And blowing up hundreds of people at the same time. So there is a cultural shift that we don't need men to be cut off from their more sensitive feeling states. It's also true that the reason our jails are full of men is because we do cut them off from their feeling states, so they can't problem solve, particularly in an emotional range. And so they end up taking action rather than problem solving and talking and feeling. So I think as we move forward as a culture, we need to educate men and women on how to give access to the full range of feelings to their little boys. And to that end, I am working on a book aimed at fathers to help them to understand how important this is and how to go about doing that, how to give their sons more access to the full range of feelings.
I want you, there's so much. Okay, I have so much. But were you involved in therapy before you had a child?
Yes. All right. So I was teaching psychology at the college level. And let's see, the question is, I think before I had a daughter, I decided to move into private practice and I started doing that part-time and then ended up doing that full-time before having a daughter.
And you were mostly predominantly focused on preschool boys at that point.
That's where I started.
How did your practice working with young kids change after you became a parent? Or did it?
I think I don't know that it changed that much
Okay.
because what happened with the preschool boys and evaluation of preschool boys is that as I worked with the boys, their fathers became interested in examining themselves.
Oh,
So my calendar started to fill up with these adult males, the fathers of the boys that I had been working with. And it's that education. I had years where my calendar was filled with adult men. They taught me so much about being a male in this culture and about their longing to be able to access the tender end of the emotional range and to be able to make stronger and deeper connections both with men and women. And so it's really that work that has created this fire, this passion in me to educate fathers. And my practice has covered the lifespan, right? I've worked with preschoolers, elementary school, high school, college. Right now, my practice is focused on adults, either couples or individuals, and that's due to COVID.
okay.
Because of COVID, right? I am doing online services during COVID, and I never went back into an office because adults like the idea that they don't have to leave work,
Mhm.
travel for 45 minutes,
Yeah.
spend an hour in therapy, and travel back to work. So they just love the convenience of online. And so all of my practice now is online.
I think it was so fascinating realizing how little we needed offices and how much overhead they created. And you're right. I mean, as a doula, I wouldn't do consults. At first, I did consults at coffee shops. It took so much time
Mhm.
and money. It's not just the gas, but then I get a coffee. And,
Right.
I went
Right.
to completely online and I was
Mhm.
immovable because it saved me so much
Mhm.
time and money. So
Right.
I get that. As long
Mhm.
as with therapy, if I'm on a Zoom call with you or a video conference call
Mhm.
with you,
Right.
I feel the connection with you and I'm as comfortable. I would think some people would be more comfortable in that
I think some
atmosphere.
people are more comfortable.
Yeah. Um, but for some people who like the in person, as long as they're as comfortable, then why would you ever go back to an office?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The thing that you miss in a video is the rest of the body,
Yeah.
right? And as Bessel van der Kolk's book says, the body keeps the score, right? The body holds information. And so I do have to stop and sometimes ask people, I'm just curious, what are your hands doing
Yeah.
right now? Right? And, kind of what's happening with your legs and feet. And I have a friend who teases me about this, but a couple were visiting and he's asking me the same question about, what about video stuff and is it good or bad to do video stuff? And we're sitting out on the patio and his foot is going like this. All right. He's just tapping his foot like crazy. And I said, well, one of the things I would miss is that foot. And it means something. All
Yeah.
right. It tells me something about you. So I have to start asking what's happening below what I can see. What are your hands doing? What are your feet doing? Are your legs crossed or uncrossed? Because your body does give you very good information. And you want to bring that up to the surface. I want to make the
Yeah.
client aware that your body's telling you something, right? And if your stomach is tightening or if your chest is, bouncing and you're having a hard time breathing, that's good information. for
Yeah.
us. We want to know that, and we want to understand what it's saying about the experience that you're having and the feelings that you're having and the piece of history or conflict that you're talking about. It's very important.
I want to, I have a couple questions. One is, how did your profession and how change the relationship with your husband?
That's a
Because and then and then we can segue into your book. I want, because I don't know anything about your husband or what he did for work or any of that stuff. So, but you're working with boys, preschool,
Mhm.
um, how much society has shut them down, and then with dads, and you've got this husband here, and then you guys have a daughter, and so how did it shift things within your
Right.
home with your husband?
So, my husband, we PhD, and my parents introduced us.
Oh,
And each one of us had dated other people in the past. Neither one of us were dating at the time. And my parents invited my husband, future husband, over to play cards. And they sent me to the door to answer the door. And there was this moment for each of us when I answered the door that made an immediate emotional connection. It it's unusual. It was, I would say, magical. And we have been married for 53 years.
oh my gosh, I love this. That's amazing.
And
Ah,
so my husband will say that I'm his best therapist as well. So we can dig into things, right? We can
yeah.
go deep together and really talk honestly and directly with each other. And I think that's part of the reason that we have been married for 53 years, is that we don't pull any punches or hold anything back. If I have an issue or he has an issue, we're going to work it out. We're going to talk it through. It's
That's
it's
amazing.
It's very important, right? And people lose track of that. And because we train men that they are not supposed to express need or require attention or want comfort, we also train women, right? Women say that they want emotion from their husbands, but when their husband offers even a degree of disappointment, right?
Mm.
So I'm worried about this promotion that I'm up for. I really want it, and I'm afraid I'm not going to get it, right? The wife, instead of saying, "Hey, come sit down. I want to hear more about that." The wife says, "I'm sure you'll get it, right? You're the best man for the job. I'm sure you'll get it, right?" Which just wipes the guy off the face of the earth. It says, whatever you are feeling really isn't important to me, and I don't want to hear your story, right? If you're worried, tough it out. If
Walk
you're
it off.
scared you're going to get promoted, walk it off, right?
I now I'm thinking, my husband and I have such a great relationship, and every time I've ever had an issue, he sits down and he's very focused. There's no phone, there's nothing there.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I appreciate that so much. And now I'm thinking, am I do I
Is it
do that? Am I
reciprocal? Right.
dismissive? Maybe I'm
Is it
dismissive. That would make
reciprocal?
me feel horrible. Um, so your essentially your job though taught you to go really deep. That was probably
Right.
important in that relationship and his as well,
Right.
which is something
Yeah.
that I don't think we learn. We have
No, we
to
don't.
search it out because
Right.
those, like, my husband and I go very deep in conversations, and we tell each other when we're not pleased, and we share a lot, and what do you think about this, and on a
Mhm.
regular basis. But we had to learn that, and it was hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, we are not taught relationship skills. We
Mhm.
need to be taught relationship skills,
I want to
but
ask you about your
we
book. Oh,
don't bring it. uh,
sorry, we have a delay.
Yes,
And
I do have a book.
yes.
I do have a book that I would love to share with everyone. All right. And I'll show you a copy of it. Here's the front of it. Oops, with Zoom, you probably can't see it.
Nope, it's fading out.
Okay. It's called Read, Reflect, Respond, The Three R's of Growth and Change. And it's a journal book for teens through adults.
Ah,
It's organized in a very unique way in that one page is an essay and the facing page is blank. The facing page has a couple of questions, maybe to get you started in responding to the essay, but it's blank for a very good reason. For the reason that I told you at the beginning of this interview, which is we hold on to everything from infancy. Most journal books have lines where you're supposed to write a response in words. Our brains hold on to information with words, with action, and with pictures. All right. So if you only give me access to words, you have cut off 2/3 of my capability to tap into my own understanding. So the facing page is blank so that you can draw, scribble. I tell people you could tear the page if you want, but you'll ruin the essay on the other side unless you tape it back together. But I want people to challenge themselves to really have access to deeper pieces of themselves than just the language or the words. And the way you get there is through action or through pictures. And so that's why the facing page is blank. And I hope everybody gets a copy of it and really challenges themselves to grow and to reflect on their history
hmm.
because your history is way there and you can access it. It's important to access it.
I found it on your website and it's an Amazon bestseller. But I didn't realize, like I have a teenage daughter and I didn't even think about her,
Hmm.
yeah, getting that. Um,
Right.
so you're only
Right.
in Virginia and DC for therapy. I want to unfortunately let people know that.
Nope. Nope. I'm in
Maryland,
Maryland.
Maryland.
I'm in
Yep,
Maryland and DC. I'm like
yep.
in Maryland and Washington, D.C., but I can consult with anybody all over the world. And I'm happy to do that.
I this was so fun, Gloria. Thank you so much for being on. I love your
You're
story. I love your story. Thank you so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. I love being with you. You do a very nice job.